Jerry Ivan Allison, born on August 31, 1939, in Hillsboro, Texas, carved out a legacy as one of the earliest architects of rock and roll drumming. From a young age, Allison's attention was drawn to rhythm. By 10, he was drumming in his school band, and his teenage years in Lubbock saw the genesis of a musical bond that would define an era. It was during a school assembly that Allison first saw Buddy Holly perform, a moment that stirred something undeniable in both boys. They found a shared love in artists like Little Richard and Fats Domino and began playing together, first as a duo, with Allison providing minimalist but rhythmically rich percussion that would come to define their early sound. Their early rehearsals took place in Allison's large bedroom, even accommodating a piano. It was there, one night in 1956, that they wrote "That'll Be the Day," inspired by a John Wayne catchphrase in the film The Searchers. Though initially dismissed by Nashville producer Owen Bradley, the song would soon launch them into stardom. When re-recorded in Clovis, New Mexico, under the guidance of Norman Petty, the song achieved a raw, irresistible edge. The Crickets were born, with Allison on drums, Joe B. Malden on bass, and Nicky Sullivan eventually joining on rhythm guitar. That same song later soared to the top of the charts, becoming a #1 hit in the United States and the United Kingdom. Allison's drumming was unconventional, often inventive. He didn't require a full kit to deliver a percussive punch. On early Crickets recordings, he clapped his hands, slapped his knees, or tapped on cardboard boxes to evoke emotion and groove. His use of paradiddles on Peggy Sue, a song renamed in hopes of winning back his then on-off girlfriend Peggy Sue Guerin, brought a distinctive gallop to the record. He transformed percussion into melody, using rhythm not to dazzle with complexity, but to elevate every lyric and guitar line. Marrying Peggy Sue in 1958 at just 18, Allison found his personal and professional lives intertwined. Yet his marriage, like many in the spotlight, did not last, and they divorced in 1967. Years later, he married his second wife, Joni Sveume, with whom he remained until his death. The Crickets' story fractured when Holly chose to part ways in 1958 and pursue a solo career. The friendship endured, and Allison never begrudged the decision. Their paths might have converged again, but fate intervened. Holly's death in a 1959 plane crash was a thunderclap. Allison, just 19, served as a pallbearer at the funeral. That same year, he released the solo single "Real Wild Child" under the pseudonym Ivan, backed by Holly on guitar. It barely scratched the charts, but it holds the distinction of being the first studio recording of a song that would later become a rock mainstay. Despite the loss, Allison steered the Crickets forward. Sonny Curtis returned, Glenn D. Hardin joined, and eventually so did British musicians Albert Lee and Rick Gretsch. At various times, the group included singers like Earl Sinks and Jerry Naylor, and even served as the Everly Brothers' backing band. Allison's drumming can be heard on classics such as the Everly Brothers' "Till I Kissed You" and Eddie Cochran's "Cut Across Shorty." The early 1960s marked a shift as Allison and Curtis founded the Mark III publishing company, penning songs and shaping other artists' soundscapes. One gem to emerge from this venture was Curtis's "Love Is All Around," later immortalized as the theme to the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Allison continued session work, lending his skills to artists like J.J. Cale and Johnny Rivers. In the 1970s, with the stirrings of a rock and roll revival, Allison recorded "Rockin' 50s Rock and Roll" with Delaney Bramlett, Hardin, Curtis, and guest guitarist Eric Clapton. He also appeared on Clapton's debut solo album. By the 1980s, a new wave of appreciation for the Crickets' influence emerged. Paul McCartney, who had long acknowledged their inspiration, collaborated with the group on the 1988 album T-Shirt. In 2004, the Crickets and their buddies featured a stellar lineup, including John Prine, Graham Nash, Rodney Crowell, and Waylon Jennings. Not one to bask in accolades, Allison nonetheless received many. The Crickets were inducted into the Music City Walk of Fame in 2007 and into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2012, a correction of the earlier oversight when Buddy Holly was inducted without his bandmates. Despite the bright lights, Allison preferred the peace of his farm in Lyles, Tennessee. He was still tending to hay and livestock into his 80s. He had no illusions about fame, often sharing candid reflections on the machinations of the music industry. Norman Petty's notorious manipulation of songwriting credits haunted him. Allison claimed co-authorship of Not Fade Away, only to see his name erased. In a meeting with Holly's widow Maria Elena after the singer's death, Allison insisted Holly receive his due credit for Peggy Sue. It cost him his own share. When the Buddy Holly story film depicted him as abrasive and unsympathetic, Allison felt betrayed. He had not been consulted, and the character bore little resemblance to the real man. He later participated in The Real Buddy Holly Story, co-produced by McCartney, to set the record straight. Throughout his life, Allison remained the heartbeat of the Crickets, the only constant through every iteration until their final concert in 2016 at Clear Lake, Iowa, the site of Holly's final show. Allison never set out to be a star. His artistry lay in restraint in the musical choices others ignored, whether playing only cymbals on Well, All Right, or crafting rhythms from a cardboard box. His instincts shaped the DNA of rock music. Bands like the Beatles, the Ramones, and Nirvana followed the blueprint Allison and his friends created in a modest Texas town. On August 22, 2022, just 9 days before his 83rd birthday, Jerry Allison passed away from cancer at his farm. The loss was felt deeply across the music world. Obituaries poured in, calling him one of the last living links to rock and roll's genesis. Fans remembered him not for solos or spectacle, but for creating a sound that invited the world to dance, to sing, to dream. His name may not be as recognizable as Holly's, but the music they made together belongs to both. In the heartbeat of That'll Be the Day, the gallop of Peggy Sue, or the backbeat of Not Fade Away, Jerry Allison lives on, quietly, rhythmically, and unmistakably.